Welcome to It's a Woman's World, a show which discusses any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Taping today from William Mitchell College of Law, and here's our host, Dr. Ellen Kennedy.
Welcome to It's a Woman's World. My name is Ellen Kennedy. I'm your host for this very special broadcast from William Mitchell College of Law in St. Paul. I'm the Executive Director of World Without Genocide, a human rights organization headquartered here at William Mitchell. We're going to talk today about the annual institute that World Without Genocide hosts at Mitchell for high school and for college students. I'm joined today by three very special guests. Liz Meskey is with us this afternoon. She is a recent graduate from William Mitchell, and she's preparing some very special materials for this summer's program. Christy Nickerson in the center is our Program and Operations Director at World Without Genocide, and she heads up the Institute this year. And finally, we have Danny or Daniela Prigashina. Danny has attended every institute since it began 5 years ago and has been very involved in all the work that we do at World Without Genocide. I'd like to begin by asking Christy to tell us about the Institute. How did it begin? What's it like? What's the purpose of it?
Well, the Institute's been going on for 5 years, and every summer we focus on a different human rights issue. We connect a genocide or conflict that's happened internationally to what's going on here in our own communities. So we look at a human rights issue on a global scale and then on a smaller scale, locally and nationally. We teach about the human rights issue, and then we look at ways that students can get involved in taking action, ways at the local, state, national, and even the international level where they can make a difference to support human rights and build peace.
Danny, you've been participating since the very beginning. High school and college students could spend their summer vacation very differently. Why do you come to the Summer Institute every year?
Well, I come back every year because every year I get to experience the positive impact that the Institute has on the students. And that's primarily because of the knowledge that we learn and gain, and the fact that we're learning about issues that were not taught in school. And then we also gain gratitude. We learn about individuals that stopped focusing on what they don't have and truly made a difference. And then we're also inspired. We're inspired to make a change, and we're inspired by the individuals that go to the Institute. And at the end of the 3 days, not only do we feel more mature, more inspired, we also have a great community to come back to.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Thank you. Liz, what's your role with this summer's program?
I'm so excited to be participating in the Institute this summer. I'm preparing some mock trial materials for the students this year. The focus of the program is going to be in part on the Armenian genocide, and the mock trial will actually be a really fascinating story of an Armenian post-genocide who found himself in Berlin and was part of something called Operation Nemesis. And it was, in essence, a group of ordinary citizens who took it upon themselves to seek justice for what had occurred. And Sagaman Talerian was a young man who was tried for the murder of Talat Pasha. Talat Pasha was a perpetrator of the Armenian genocide and was murdered on the streets of Berlin in broad daylight. Mr. Talerian was brought to trial in Berlin and found not guilty. So we are going to have the students recreate this amazing trial.
That sounds incredible. Is this a true story?
It's absolutely true, yes. And actually, the story was fantastically recreated in a political cartoon. And the person who translated that book into English lives here in the city, so she is going to be a valuable resource to us in recreating this trial.
Amazing. Christy, what's the theme of this summer's institute?
This year we'll focus on religions and genocide. So looking at the connection between religion and mass conflict, mass atrocities throughout history. We'll focus on 3 conflicts in particular. On the instance of the Armenian genocide, which Liz mentioned, when 1.5 million Christian Armenians were killed in the Ottoman Empire during World War I. We'll look at the Holocaust, when 6 million Jews and 3 million others were killed during World War II in Nazi-occupied Europe. And then we'll look at atrocity crimes that are happening today in Syria and Iraq, most of perpetrated by both government forces and by ISIS.
So what's the connection? Why go from what happened 100 years ago, the genocide of the Armenians, to what's happening with ISIS today?
Well, we see very common threads through all of these. Many people see religion as a driving force for conflict, for violence. But at the Summer Institute, we really want to explore with our students that religion is only a surface level issue. It's a proximate cause, and we want to talk about what ultimately drives conflict. So the similarities between all three of these conflicts, and even though we're starting over a century ago in Armenia and the Ottoman Empire, the similarities between then and now. And also when we talk about the Armenian genocide, it happened to many people and in places that are also being targeted today by ISIS and by the Syrian regime in Iraq and Syria.
Thank you. Liz, throughout your years at William Mitchell, you've been involved in human rights work. What drew you to get involved with the Summer Institute? What is it about this topic of religions and genocide?
So during my time at William Mitchell as a law student, I worked with World Without Genocide as a Benjamin Friends Fellow in Human Rights and Law. And the focus of a lot of my work with World Without Genocide was based on religious minority persecution, largely in Southeast Asia, Burma, also Bhutan. So when I heard about the theme of this particular Summer Institute and the great work that is being done, I got really excited and wanted to participate in any way I could.
That sounds just great. Christy, students in the Institute each year go on to do some pretty amazing things. Would you share with our viewers what some of those activities have been?
Absolutely, and Danny is a great example of that. You know, she's gone on to intern for many human rights organizations throughout the Twin Cities. She interned for one of our congressmen and is now going into a career in human rights. But our students have done many things. They've testified with World Without Genocide at the legislature. They have formed groups at their schools, social justice clubs, and they've hosted events to promote human rights and to get their student body more involved. They've worked at international courts and have traveled the world to learn about genocide in post-genocide countries. And they've interned at World Without Genocide. Many of them have come back after the internship or after the Institute to intern with us and have built their human rights career around that. We found that many students have told us that their experience at the Institute has influenced their choices in courses once they get to college, maybe where they want to go to college, and certainly what they do during and after their college career.
Danny, would you say that's been true for you?
Oh yeah, for me it's certainly true. Yeah, a lot of things I do today is all because of World Without Genocide and the way it influenced me in such a positive way and changed the way I approach life and my everyday tasks.
What do you think your long-term vision might be for what you would like to do in the world?
That's a very difficult question to answer. As of now, I know my long-term vision is to spend every day trying to do something better than I did yesterday.
Oh, that's just great. That's really inspiring. What I'd like to do is share with our viewers a little more about the Institute, and I want to invite any of the three of you to comment as I share this information. First, this coming Institute is going to be held at William Mitchell, August 11th to 13th. It's not an overnight summer camp experience. Students do go home at the end of the night, the end of the evening. But it's a very intense experience, I think. Did it feel that way to you, Danny, particularly that first year?
It is a very intense experience, and you have to come in being prepared for that, but it's also very rewarding.
I'm thrilled to hear that. In 2014, it actually received the Minnesota Ethical Leadership Award. We have some pictures of students with some of our speakers and students during the event. In this photo of last summer's attendees, you see one person who stands out because he's wearing a shirt and tie. And that special person is Special Agent Jeffrey Van Nest from the FBI, who bring in people from a variety of different sectors to talk with the students, people from government, from different refugee communities, people from advocacy organizations, humanitarian groups. So it's a way to hear from a lot of different sectors of both public and private who are involved in trying to advocate for peace and justice. Jeffrey Van Nest will be with us again this year, as will State Senator Sandy Pappas, who is shown in this picture from last year's program. Here we have students setting up Tents of Witness, an exhibit that we have. Christy, do you want to say a little bit about it?
Of course. The Tents of Witness, Genocide and Conflict is a traveling exhibit that was created by World Without Genocide, and the exhibit is composed of 10 tents, each representing a different group targeted for genocide. And the tents themselves are modeled after refugee camp tents that are used in Chad for refugees, largely from the Darfur region of Sudan. So it's a very engaging experience to walk through the tents. You learn about each group and their culture before the conflict. You learn about what happened during that conflict and then where they are after. So where people have come since the conflict, if that means that they're in refugee communities around the world, if there's been efforts towards justice. And the exhibit always is accompanied with action stations to help viewers get more involved, to take action to prevent future genocides. It's a very engaging, interactive experience that travels throughout the upper Midwest to educate about genocides and conflicts.
And Danny has participated in setting it up and being present at the exhibit at many different places, for which we are very grateful. Christy, if people wanted to host this exhibit, how would they go about doing that?
They would simply have to get in touch with us at World Without Genocide. The exhibit is actually part of a grant in Minnesota, and so we're able to travel widely throughout the upper Midwest to civic centers, to faith organizations, academic institutions, to complement existing human rights programming and really to bring these issues to their communities. You can find more information about the tents on our website at worldwithoutgenocide.org, and there's contact information there about how to rent the exhibit.
Have students use this?
Absolutely. We have a few each year. They have brought the tents as an independent program. They've built it in as part of existing programs that they do at their schools. And we hear great things about how it sparks advocacy, and it really engages students in letter writing and fundraising and educating their peers about a topic that they're very interested in.
Great, thank you. Some pictures from the Institute last summer. Christy organizing students for activities outside, so we do get outside. Students participating actively in what's going on in terms of education, learning advocacy. There's Danny preparing for something. On the far picture on the right, holding the microphone, is one of our former students who had been with us for the first 4 years and became very engaged and involved as a presenter after her first year. So what we see is that students like Danny started in high school, and originally this was a high school institute, and they kept coming back. Danny, what's the phrase you've always said?
You can never leave, or
That's right.
you really can't.
Exactly. And you'll see Danny in almost all of these pictures. Danny's been involved in so many ways. The student on the left was a college student last summer. The student on the right has just graduated from high school. And I believe he is going on to a summer abroad in a post-genocide study program. This was from last summer's mock trial. And Jalen Palmer was one of the judges in that trial that recreated the experience of the tribunal that prosecuted one of the perpetrators of the genocide in Rwanda. Picture showing some of the speakers from last summer. The two people in the center were gave a particularly interesting talk. Leslie Lagerstrom and her son Sam are strong advocates for the transgender community. Sam is a transgender young man, and his mom is very active in helping parents of young people who are in that process of dealing with issues that come up regarding their identities. You see on the left one of our board members, Randy Markison, who's been a long-time presenter at the Institute, and of course I'm there on the right. At every institute, the students do a Reader's Theater play. A short play, standing up, playing different roles about people who actually did take a stand, stood up, did what was very difficult or dangerous to try to prevent genocide from happening. The one that we'll do this year will focus on people who helped to prevent the Armenian genocide, and then Armenians who paid it forward, who during the Holocaust helped to protect Jews. Habitat for Humanity. Danny, you participated that first year. What was that like?
It was an incredible experience. Not only with the students we met during the summer, you all have great stuff to share that you have done regarding the Institute. And you are given tasks that you usually would normally not do.
I remember.
Like trimming, that was my task. But you do walk out more empowered and inspired, and you feel even closer to the students that you went into them.
One of the reasons why the Institute students work with Habitat for Humanity is that the focus there is on building a home for refugees. So to connect what they learn about globally with refugees in our own community. The picture on the left shows Christy. On the far left of that picture, and Danny. Danny was an intern through the College of Liberal Arts at the University of Minnesota, and this was at an internship event. Danny was one of the featured speakers. And then, Christy, do you want to say a word about the people in the blue shirts and funny hats?
Sure, that fun picture. That's an event that we participate in every year, put on by Minnesota International Center. It's called World Quest. And it's essentially a trivia competition. And being that most of the people involved in World Without Genocide and many of our Summer Institute students have traveled so widely and have such global knowledge, we participate in the trivia event just as a way to reconnect during the winter months and to keep everyone involved. And it's a great time, very fun.
That's great. Danny, you're in this picture as well. Again. In this picture, we were at a major event for state legislators who were in Minnesota from all over the world, all over the country, and our topic was human trafficking. And pictured here are 3 students from the Institute, so the 3 students who are on the right, and the 2 students next to Danny are law students from William Mitchell. What made you get involved as a law student at Mitchell? What sparked your interest in affiliating at World Without Genocide?
Yeah, absolutely. In undergrad, my major was in global studies with a focus on human rights and justice. And after taking a year off and working, I decided to come back to law school. And when I heard about the organization, I realized that I'd kind of lost my way in terms of pursuing that career path. And I just thought it was such a great opportunity to really do meaningful work with my law degree as I was pursuing an education. I could still be involved in human rights work. And I really attribute the opportunities I have with World Without Genocide to kind of getting back on the track to pursuing a human rights career in law.
That's a really interesting issue, that people can kind of lose their way. Christy, would you say a little bit about volunteers and how volunteers could connect for human rights work?
Absolutely. Well, as has been highlighted, we have fellowship opportunities, internship opportunities, but if you can't commit to long hours with us, volunteering is a great way to get involved. We have volunteers who help regularly with the Tens of Witness exhibit, helping it travel, making it possible for us to visit so many places around Minnesota and throughout the region. And volunteers who attend many of our educational events. We have events on different topics throughout the academic year, and some even during the summer, where volunteers are crucial. They're the ones who help us put on the events, who welcome the public, and who are that next step to engaging people in human rights.
We had people at the state capitol sign up as Governor Dayton signed a special bill into law. He was signing a bill that designates every April in the state of Minnesota as Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month. And immediately behind Governor Dayton, we see Danny. When Danny saw some of these pictures a little earlier, she said, "This is a documentary of my life." And I think it is, Danny. But it's great that there were so many people from different sectors of the community, both public and private members, who were here for this important commemoration. And then there's Danny again in the middle row. Every year there's a reunion. Danny, you even came to the reunion and you brought 2 special treats. Do you remember those treats that you brought? You brought birthday cakes. 2 people were celebrating their birthdays, and only Danny would have remembered that. And Danny was the one to bring the birthday cakes. If people are interested, as Christy mentioned, in volunteering or connecting in some way, this is how they can reach us. And we really invite people to do that. And in the last minute that we have left, I would just like to hear a couple of words of inspiration that each of you has felt from connecting either directly with the Institute or with other people in human rights work. Dina?
Yeah, well, I actually consider this a big family because we all support each other. We all encourage each other to keep on working and keep on going and not to give up.
Great, thank you. Christy?
That's wonderful. I really found that to be one of the biggest things that I take away from the Summer Institute is that at the end of the summer, everyone sort of goes out back to their schools. We have students from around the country, so we're going back home. And when we think about the students at the Institute, when we think about others in human rights work, the Institute is a place where we all come together. And when we leave, we know that we're not alone because we have a network around the country and that there are people around the world who are supporting this work and doing good work to build human rights.
And how important that is. I mean, these issues are heavy in a lot of cases and happening very far away in many cases as well. So to be able to have a community here in the Twin Cities of people who have similarly aligned interests and are really motivated helps motivate me certainly every day. So
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for watching. And now, over to the studio and to Dr. Susan Strauss.
Hi, welcome back to It's a Woman's World. As promised, we are doing a cooking demonstration. Janita is with me again, and so is Nadia, and Nadia is our chef. Take it away, Nadia, and tell us what you're going to be cooking.
All right, I'm doing one of my favorite things, quinoa and kale patties. It's healthy, but it's delicious. And I'll be starting, now I've got an egg in here in the bowl, cracked 1 egg and about 2 tablespoons of onion and maybe half a clove of garlic. It's all been chopped and minced. And to that, I will add, I'm gonna look at my ingredient amounts here as far as the breadcrumbs. It's about 1/4 of a cup, and I pre-measured to save time here today, 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs.
And did you grind them up too, or did
I
you
bought
grind
them
that
that way,
Okay.
but that's going to be part of the binder. I'm going to give you these to keep out of our sight here as we
Perfect.
go along. And this is a cup of quinoa. This is pre-cooked quinoa. I like to have it at room temperature when I do this because it gets a little stickier and I can make the patties better when the quinoa doesn't come out of the refrigerator cold. So I pre-cook the quinoa by the package directions.
Quinoa is all the rage now.
It is.
It's good. It's better than rice. I swear. This is 1.5 cups of kale. And kale is the superfood. Everyone hears about kale being a superfood. This looks like a lot, and it's a lot of volume there, but it really isn't a lot when you get the recipe going. And I'll mix that all in. let's see, oh, and this is Parmesan cheese. In this instance, in this recipe, because I don't want the patties to fall apart with too many larger chunks of things in there, we've already got the kale like that. This is the Parmesan cheese that's grated really finely, and I think there's a tablespoon or two of that in there.
Boy, does this smell good. It's
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It smells very good,
It's
even
gonna
though it
be
has
really good.
kale in
Oh,
it.
yes, and salt and pepper, just a pinch. That's a generous pinch. Now, I will get this.
You gotta
stirred-
throw it over your shoulder too, like
Yes,
Rachel Ray.
yes. Get this mixed together and till they're gonna be sticky. Now, while I'm mixing this, I think I can get this burner going, so the pan will be hot.
And it's really the egg that keeps it all together?
It's the egg and I think the breadcrumbs.
Okay.
The stickiness of the warmer quinoa and that's why I use the Parmesan cheese in the more powdered version, because it also helps stick things together. Because the hardest thing in this entire recipe is getting these patties to stick together. Janita, would you pour that oil in there?
Maybe I can reach it a little bit better.
There you go.
Tell me when.
Oh, you can put it all in there. I brought.
all of it?
Yeah, it can all. It's only about 2 tablespoons. so.
Okay.
So you're kind of sauteing these.
Yeah, yeah. You can bake them in the oven, but then they don't really brown that well. Okay, we got one.
And as you cook them, how long on each side? How many
I'm gonna
minutes?
turn that temperature down just a little. It's already hot.
I would think you could even let them get a little crispy, couldn't you?
Yes, in fact, when they do that, they're especially good.
I
because
like it
the-
crispy.
The kale gets crispy around the edges, and it does make it better.
Right.
Well, we are almost out of time, and I'm thinking we need to be able to dish these up
Yeah.
and have a taste. So maybe what we can do is take one of them.
This very first one, and this is this was the first one that we did.
Oh, it doesn't matter. They all look good. I like this one. 'cause
Also,
it's
that's
got-
one you flip first.
I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can do
Yeah,
this.
because all they need to do is get hot, because that's,
And shall we taste it, Janita, and see how it
Yeah.
tastes? You're going to have it
Absolutely.
with us?
yeah, oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Okay.
I can get a bite out of the one right here.
All righty.
Be careful not to burn your mouth.
This is what I was waiting for. I had this for dinner last night.
That
See,
is
now,
so
even for
good.
you, who didn't think you might like it, I'll bet it's better than you expected.
Much
There's
better.
so much flavor in that.
Yes.
And I'm a very picky eater.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're not here with us to taste this. But with that, we're going to end. And so thank you for joining us for It's a Woman's World. See you next time. Bye.